our old person who had Brendan's job tried to teach like the press assistants to do the live stream, and we did like multiple trainings. It's not gonna work. We can't
try to deputize like several people. Like for when I'm supposed to do something, it's like either know it or you don't know it. It's just I gotta do it.
Somehow judiciary figured that out. So
it's a higher quality.
Or was it not judiciary? It was something else. I know it's a way higher quality stream.
Yeah. It's crazy to me that it's this complicated right now.
Right.
Like it's just crazy.
The sad thing is this conference is always just like
yeah.
All these computers like
It's probably, I think ours is like 10 years, actually 10 years. I remember Dylan saying that, he was like, I like this one, it's reliable.
I don't. We have a different one and I am using it starting next week. I'm so excited about it.
I finally hit my break.
Yes.
Is this seat filling or is this just for your movement or what's the deal?
You can use it. They'll let you space.
Alright, just put space back there. I got space back.
It is indeed.
5 minutes.
McCarthy's
Good.
Can I be right here?
Here. What can I make? Should I break this down?
That would be awesome, yeah. You know that beautiful how-to video I made?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to remake the entire thing.
Hi.
It's really pressing because we're using, like in a couple of weeks, we're gonna use a new camera, so I have to like a new camera with the new wire transfer.
Oh, because the process changes.
Yeah, exactly. Just, you know, it's fine, I'm fine, I'm not upset at all. It's like, alright.
I spent hours of that on a Friday night.
Nope, definitely not.
I've already done two. That would be ridiculous.
That would be a ridiculous amount of time, right? Like a how-to video would be absurd.
Does this go on thing?
It does, that black and red thing over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason. They only have the rose gold. I love it. And I was like, you know what? That works.
You don't actually have to do that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. How are you today? Good. All right. Just need to paying attention, that's all. All right, let's begin. The Democrats know their socialist agenda is not what the country wants. That is why they are moving to dismantle our institutions to hold on to their own power. Last week, we watched the chairman of the House Judiciary, Jerry Nadler, was at the Supreme Court pushing to add 4 more justices to the bench, upending a framework that's been in place since 1869. Yesterday, it was reported 100 Democrats to have signed a letter urging the Senate Democrats to abolish the filibuster. In essence, the Democratic Party is pushing to silence the voice of millions of Americans. And today, the House Democrats are moving on D.C. statehood, another ploy to consolidate power so they can jam through socialist policies like the Green New Deal, court packing, and defunding of the police. They are not even denying that that is their objective. If you watched Congressman Raskin, he is on record saying this: there is a national political logic for D.C. statehood too, because the Senate has become the principal obstacle to social progress across a whole range of issues. That doesn't exactly support the representation argument that some try to falsely state. Make no mistake, H.R. 51 is just Democrats' latest attempt for a power grab. While Democrats are trying to control the lives of the American people by force, Republicans are working on showing that we have the right policies to effectively govern. Since March 15th, nearly a third of our conference has traveled to the border to observe the crisis that Biden has created. By contrast, the top Democrat in charge of the border situation has spent a month avoiding the southern border. We have offered common sense solutions to address Biden's border crisis, but Democrats have chosen inaction. In doing so, I know the vice president, I think, isn't she going to the northern border? Is it tomorrow? And not going down to the southern border? So because we have so many members have gone, we put together a combination from each trip, not only from what we have seen, what was reported. So if the vice president will not go, Gary Palmer, our policy director, has put together from each and every trip going through, and I think it's on your chairs as well, so she can learn firsthand of the crisis that has happened based upon their policy. What I continue to see is the actions of the Democrats is more about control of our lives. Control the elections, control another branch of government, when you try to pack the courts, controlling further elections by trying to have D.C. statehood, but avoiding the biggest crisis of all. If you ask Americans what they want, it's just 4 simple things we should be focused on. Just going back to work, back to school, back to health, and back to normal. That's what the Republicans have focused on, and that's what we'll continue to focus on. I know the speaker was here earlier, and I understand she got a question about that she has been in communications with Republicans on what she's doing on the commission. I have gotten nothing from her. Leader McConnell has received nothing from her. She was even in my office yesterday. She could have dropped the letter off. Nothing from her. So I'm not quite sure who she's talking to or what she's talking about. With that, let me open up for questions. Yes, sir.
Sir, there is this audit of ballots going on in Maricopa County out in Arizona. And I'm wondering, is there a value in an audit like this at this point, given the election happened so long ago? Also, if there is a material difference in the vote totals in this audit, this ballot audit, what is the way forward given the election happened so long ago?
I think audits are always good. Makes you, regardless of what comes back within an audit, you could always clean up or see if what you're doing right or see if there's any problem. I always believe in continual improvement. So it's a state, has the ability to do it. Yes, Jake?
On the January 6th thing, let's say you did get a piece of paper and what she's laid out is she's going to give you equal representation, Republicans and Democrats. She's going to make subpoenas a joint decision between the chair and the vice chair or a vote of the committee. So those.
Okay, I've only heard that in Punch News. I have not heard that. Did I plug you enough by saying that? That's pretty good.
For the purposes of this question. How do you, could you just give us a little bit of your thoughts about what that would mean?
In all due respect, I'm not going to negotiate through Punch News or others. Punch Bowl News. I'm sorry, I'm getting it wrong. Get it wrong. I just became a subscriber last week. Give me a break. Oh, have we finally?
I don't know yet.
Okay. Look, I was very clear with the speaker early on, so was Leader McConnell, and so were those who did the 9/11 commission. For any commission to work or for any ability, it has to be in a fair process, equal number of Republicans, subpoena, and a number of others. We said that was the minimum to sit down to negotiate. She hasn't even responded to us or talked to us, so it's still a long way away. I think if anything is going to happen, she's going to have to talk with us instead of saying she's talking to some Republicans. We don't even know if they're elected who she's talking to.
Leader McCarthy.
Yes.
Leader McCarthy, have you seen the Senate infrastructure proposal, and are you negotiating at all with senators on what House Republicans would be able to support?
I have not seen what the Senate has proposed, but no, we're working on our own bill. I have talked to one person in the White House about that as well.
Do you have an idea when your own bill might be proposed?
Yeah, it'll be very soon. Very soon. We'll show it to all of you. Yes.
President Biden plans to, address a joint session of Congress next week. Have you been briefed by the Capitol Police, any, relevant law enforcement affiliates on the posture for the joint session? Do you have confidence
opinion than some within my conference.
The average no votes for Democrats have been less than one.
Well,
on those
let's
last
see.
19 bills
Let's
through
see.
the last
The
2
average Democrat vote, the Democrats are in the majority. They control the committees. They set a rule that no bill up until April go through committee, so they're pretty much writing it. So I don't see a problem. A bill can have a really nice name, but if you ever read through a bill itself and you give all the power to Democrats, I think there'd be a lot of no votes. Yes, you've been very eager today.
Do you think the Capitol Riot Commission should look at political violence more broadly, even events that had nothing to do with what happened here on January 6th?
I think there's a lot of things that happened. It's not just on January 6th. We had on Good Friday an officer get killed. I think if you're going to have a commission, you should look at the whole broad spectrums. We just went through a whole summer of riots throughout this city. We should grasp that as well. Yes?
Sir, do you have any idea who is going to give the Republican response?
Yes.
Can you tell us?
No.
Can you give us a hint?
No.
Are you choosing the House member?
How its selection goes, the leader in the Senate, the Republican leader in the Senate, and the Republican leader in the House worked together, and we selected the person more than a month ago. Yes.
Mr. McCarthy, you said that you spoke yesterday with the former president. What was the gist of that conversation?
Oh, I talked to him on the phone. We talk quite often. I was talking. He was just on television the night before. I was keeping him an update. Julia Letlow just had gotten sworn in just a few days prior. You know, that changes the outcome of the percentage of votes that you need on the floor. He was very instrumental in helping her win in a primary where the Democrats did not. Because in Louisiana you have these jungle primaries, and we actually won the race earlier. And Julia Ledlow, her husband Luke had won the seat and caught COVID and passed away before being sworn in. She is an amazing individual. Her background, PhD, when it comes to education and agriculture. And in the polls, 12 people were running. It's almost mathematically impossible to win this in a primary. And her polling was about 41%. And I had talked to the president prior, and it was about 2 weeks away before the election. And I was talking to him about Julie, and he knew Luke as well, and he wanted to get involved. And when he got involved, it kind of shifted the race, and she ended up winning by 65% of the vote. He was very vested in, like many of our races in the last that we were able to win. I mean, just since you're all reporters, you want to make sure you always have the facts right. I know you asked a question earlier about President Bush, and I'd like to have a discussion with him to understand what his feelings are. I want to know that it's not within Congress, because this was the first time since 1994 that no Republican incumbent lost. Not one Republican incumbent lost. There's only been 2 times in history that the party in power that have the White House lose the White House and actually gain seats. 1892 and 1992. Both times they won the majority 2 years later. There's more than 152 million votes for Congress. And the Republicans were 31,751 votes short of being in the majority. Now, put that with everything and all the questions you asked me the month before the election. The number one question you would ask me is, what's going to happen after I lose 15 seats? Could I still be leader after 15 seats? Not one of you would ever give the premise of the idea that Republicans would even in 1 seat. Then what happened was, you listened to Speaker Pelosi, who told you that she was going to not only keep the majority, she's going to win the majority for the next generation. You had Steny Hoyer stand up here as majority leader and tell you they were going to win 15 seats. They had the number right, the party wrong. So I think history is a little different here. And I think what you're seeing coming out of the floor of this House, that they understood what happened in that last election. They understand what's going to happen in the next one. So what they're proposing is not something that puts more people back to work. When you're the majority party, you control what bill is going to be H.R. 1, the most important bill of your majority. We had just gone through a pandemic, 10 million people out of work, millions of children have not been back in school in more than a year. And their H.R. 1 was about changing the election law to protect themselves, to continue to get elected. Then they wanted to pack a court. Now they want to change a state. I don't know how many of those 10 million are not getting elected because they won't do their work. Then they created something on day one by an executive order. They created a crisis at a border. If you go to California, along the border in California, there is a there is a fence that is open. That the mechanism broke, but it cannot be fixed because of the president's executive order. One side's Mexico, one side's the United States. So you have to park a truck there. When I went to El Paso, along the border, to a new processing facility that we built under the Trump administration, and this government, we built it larger than we'd ever think we'd need it, 98,000 square feet. It met capacity that first day I was there. That meant 120 border agents could not be on the border protecting. I went up to Monument 3.
So here's, is there any way you all can consolidate yourselves in any way, shape, or form? Are you all working for different entities? Yes. So I'm the Senate Republican, and
We're with conference.
okay, so here's the thing. So 2 people with conference, ideally just 1. I'm so sorry, but there's just no way we can have all 3 of you in here at the same time.
Time frame, we have caught 2 more people from Yemen coming into America, and they weren't together. They're on separate days. And I raised this question with you. Why are they coming here? How are they getting in? Who are they meeting with? And what do they have planned? That has nothing to do with changing the election law to control whether I can get reelected. It has nothing to do with pack the court so they won't find what the laws I passed unconstitutional. It happens to do with the security of this nation. And if the president won't even meet with us about the crisis, but he puts his vice president in charge and the vice president refuses to even go see it, we'll send her firsthand for those who take their job serious and believe in the security of this nation. One terrorist here is too much. I hope you all have a great weekend.